Hello, everyone. Season's greetings and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. We're back for a Matchday 17 review. The last show, of course, before Christmas and the winter break that has obviously now come into effect in the Bundesliga. So a bit of a break for me and Mark, but fear not. Obviously, we've got a really good show tonight, and we will be doing some more content over the Christmas period. So hopefully you'll be able to catch all that as well. So I hope everyone's well and enjoying a few Christmas tipples, so to speak. Mark, how's it over in Germany?
Yeah, not bad at all. But obviously, the COVID is still kind of raging, But hopefully that's going to be over like before we know it. But yeah, doesn't look too good with the statistics at the minute, does it? Really?
Not so much.
Yeah.
So we'll crack on in a moment. But of course, we are in partnership with Bundesliga Boxes this season. We've really enjoyed our partnership so far, halfway into the season. They've provided us with some fantastic shirts that me and Mark have been lucky enough to have. I'm wearing my Darmstadt number this evening. So if you've not already checked them out, go onto their website, just Google it, or go onto Twitter and find them there, Bundesliga Boxes. And then you can get your own one for the new year. Great way to start 2022. And of course, obviously, if you're watching this video, please drop us a like, comment along, whether it's live, please do and get involved, whether you're not sure about your opinions on the Bundesliga, if you're new to the league or if you're a regular, just get involved. We love the chat and getting interactive with you guys. And of course, press the red button and subscribe. Make sure you click that button so you don't miss out on any future shows from Over the Bar in general. So Mark, let's go straight over to you for some scores on the doors.
Yeah, so obviously the last game of fixtures before the winter break. Yeah, excuse my voice a little bit as well today. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a sore throat. Like, hopefully it's not going to be the old Rona, but yeah, we'll have to keep testing on that one. But yeah, starting on Friday night, Bayern Munich got a brilliant 4-0 win over really badly struggling Wolfsburg at the minute, aren't they? Under Florian Kohfeldt. Yeah, Bielefeld got a brilliant 2-0 win over RB Leipzig. Frankfurt continued their brilliant form with a 6th win in 7. It seems a long time ago that they were struggling now, doesn't it? But yeah, they got another impressive win, 1-0 over also top half Mainz. Yeah, Hoffenheim got a late point over Gladbach. What would have been a much needed win for Gladbach really ended up being only a point, but still a decent point, I guess, for them. Union Berlin end the half of the season in 6th place. Brilliant half for them with a 1-0 win in Bochum. Then, yeah, kind of boring 0-0 draw between Fürth and Augsburg. Yeah, but a 5th point on the board for Fürth. They are slowly but surely kind of getting up towards that 10-point mark, aren't they? I think that's pretty much all they can really play for at the minute, let's be honest, really. Yeah, Hertha Berlin with probably a thriller, really, with a 3-2 win over Borussia Dortmund. Freiburg, another brilliant win for them. What a half of the season has been for the Baden-Württembergers. They ended up with a 2-1 win over also Champions League level Leverkusen. And then the last game of the weekend, the last game of this half of the season, actually the last game of 2021 as well in the Bundesliga, ended up with a 1-0 win for FC Köln, who have had a brilliant half of the season as well against Rory's struggling Stuttgart. Yeah, I think we could safely say, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously, I think you're third bottom at the minute, right, Rory? I think
16th place at the moment.
Yeah,
not great. Let's swiftly move on, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So obviously, let's move swiftly on to OTB's featured 4 for the last time of 2021, as Rory said before. So where better place to start than the league leaders? I mean, FC Bayern Munich, what a team they are, I mean, now 9 points clear of Dortmund, who obviously lost this weekend. Obviously a massive goal difference, which pretty much makes it 10 points as well. As for this game, I mean, it was the Friday night game, so it was a great chance for them to kind of put a bit of pressure on Dortmund and maybe Leverkusen as well, who went into the weekend in 3rd place. But yeah, I mean, the game started off really. You knew that Wolfsburg, obviously, they're on a horrible run, basically, absolutely they're plummeting down the table every single weekend, aren't they? But the game started off with a great strike, actually, from Sane. But I mean, it's about 30, 35 meters out, quite a long way. I think for me, Casteels has got to do a little bit better with that one. He's not had the best half of the season, building on a brilliant season last season. He kind of swerves a little bit, but he pushes it kind of hopelessly out to Thomas Müller, who's basically got a tap in, really. He just taps it into an empty net. It's 1-0 after less than 5 minutes. I mean, it's just a nightmare start, really, for the away side. But to be fair, they actually react quite well, Wolfsburg. And I mean, that man, Wout Weghorst, who's been their talisman for the last 3 seasons, basically, didn't have his best game in this match. And he goes one-on-one with Neuer just a few minutes later, actually. And it's not a bad effort, but it's probably a good save from Neuer. But, I mean, should he really score there? Probably yes, really, in all honesty. Then he has another chance as well from a good cross coming in from the left side as well, which he just kind of nudges just wide. But, I mean, that's 2 chances that if it was last season, he'd probably have scored for me, at least one of them, really. But then, yeah, so they end up going in a 1-0, Rory. And then the second half was just a bit of a rout, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I agree with your thoughts on the first goal. I think it's quite avoidable. I'm not sure if Casteels saw the shot late or through a crowd of bodies, but I think he's got to do better there. And yeah, Weghorst ultimately has to do better with his chance. Second half, it was a contest up until Sane's third goal, I guess. But obviously Upamecano goal comes from a short corner. Again, for me, that's quite a soft one. I think you obviously have to give Bayern the third and fourth goal from Sane. They were describing it as a Iron Robin-esque goal, but for me, that's what Sane does all the time. That is his trademark, I reckon. He always cuts in and does that. So, brilliant goal for 3-0, and Lewandowski had to eventually get on the goal scoring charts. Of course, he did. Casteels actually made quite a few good saves from Lewandowski personally, especially in the second half, I think. So he eventually gets one teed up to him by Musiala to make it 4-0 and obviously complete the comfortable win. In terms of Bayern, 9 points clear. Looking ominous. Again, they're the autumnal champions, and they'll probably go on to finish the second half of the season in a similar style. Right now, you can't see anyone getting anywhere close. It would be interesting to see if any other teams around Europe in a league format. I'm not saying we should have a Super League, but it'd just be really interesting to see if anyone could get close to Bayern in a league format, because right now, they're just too strong for the teams in Germany. It is what it is, unfortunately. So they look too strong. Wolfsburg themselves look a bit lost on the pitch. I think the change of manager gave them a momentary bounce, didn't it? But since then, it's now kind of turned into a bit of a nothingy season, and could get worse if they, we've seen teams that have been in really bad form, get drawn into things. And I mean, they're in 13th place, and you think of Wolfsburg at the start of the season, you're thinking, right, they had enough wins on the board and they'll probably just be mid-table now after a poor season. But they're only 3 points behind, ahead of my boy Stuttgart in 16th place, and that's one win, which I hope will come soon. So, and I can't see where Wolfsburg are buying a win right now. They've got the caliber of doing it, but as a team and as a tactical kind of way of play, I just can't see what they're trying to do. They just look a bit lost out there for me. So, yeah, I'd be worried if I was a Wolfsburg fan, frankly.
Yeah, I think for me, before they get Xaver Schlager back, they've got big problems because they look absolutely poor at the minute, don't they? I mean, the defense was so good for so long. It's just literally, it's fallen apart. I mean, Brooks has been dropped for the last few games. Mm-hmm. He's had a really poor season. But for me, Lacroix hasn't been much better, to be honest with you. He's been poor. Even Riddle Baku, who started the season well, he was another of the stars from last season. He's also been poor recently. He's also spent a few games on the bench. Weghorst isn't scoring goals, is he? It's really not working out for them. None of the new signings have really come to the fore. The likes of Waldschmidt, who was quite highly rated. I mean, I would say the Nemecha brothers have done okay, to be fair.
He's been all right.
Yeah, that's a bit of I think both of them have come in and done all right, especially the striker. yeah, they've done okay, and they've shown a bit of potential. But I mean, the overall, it's been a disastrous half of the season. Remember, this is a side that finished 4th last season. Were brilliant for most of it, and they're now 13th in the space of like half a season. And as Rory said, they're literally plummeting. They've lost the last 4 on the bounce. They've conceded bags of goals in all of those games, and for me, I've got to be honest with you, I think the one thing I'd do over the winter break, if I were them, is get rid of Kohfeldt, to be honest. I mean, a lot of people might think that's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. He hasn't had many games. He's had probably, 7 league games or so, 7, 8 league games. But for me, they've actually gone worse since he came in, apart from the first couple of games when they kind of scraped a couple of scrappy wins, really, I think. But I mean, they've not really been good, and they were poor in the Champions League too, in a group that they could potentially have at least got 3rd place, really, And I'm really worried for them at the minute because the quality at the bottom of the league is good, I mean, if you look at Bielefeld, who are second bottom, they don't look like a second bottom side to me, certainly at the moment. Stuttgart also have been decent the last 4 or 5 games, despite losing this weekend. So, I mean, they're going to be worried, they're going to be really worried because for me, they're as bad as any team in the league at the minute, really, Wolfsburg, especially under Kohfeldt. As for Bayern, I mean, as Rory said, they're just a brilliant side, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of people criticize the Bundesliga and say, oh, it's a one-team league. But to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they walk the Premier League in some ways, Bayern. I really do. I mean, obviously, a lot of people might disagree with that, but I just think they're such a good side. And for me, they are probably, along with Man City and maybe Liverpool, the best side in Europe at the moment, without doubt. And I think they've got quality players in every position, even without the likes of Kimmich, who's obviously got his issue with COVID and whatever. Yeah. But for me, it's just been it's been brilliant, really. It's been a brilliant first half of the season for them. 10 out of 10 for Nagelsmann for me. Brilliant in the Champions League. Destroyed Barcelona home and away. Apart from, actually, I would say no, maybe 9 out of 10 because of the Gladbach humiliation in the cup.
Yeah, true.
I would say that's the only thing you can really take points off him for, really. But it's been a great half, and I think he's going to have a great tenure there at Bayern Munich for sure. Okay, so moving on. I mean, the shock of the weekend, wasn't it? I mean, some would say not many saw this coming, but for me, Bielefeld have been showing promise for a few weeks again now. They got the win in midweek against Bochum, which was a massive, massive springboard for them. And they backed that win up with another 2-0 win away in RB Leipzig. I mean, what a win this is, really. When you look at the budgets of these two teams, you can't compare them, basically. And I mean, for me, it was a deserved win as well. I mean, obviously, the first half probably wasn't the greatest spectacle. Obviously, Forsberg went off injured. There were no fans in the stadium as well, which kind of, it always kind of sours the atmosphere, especially after most of the season. We have seen fans back in the stadium. But obviously, I think this is the second game in a row they've now played behind closed doors, RB Leipzig. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the first half wasn't great, but I mean, it looked as though Bielefeld had got a really, really good opener, actually. I mean, it was a good team move. And that man, Okugawa, who, is the latest quality Japanese recruit to the Bundesliga, he's been a really, really big positive for Bielefeld this season, without doubt. But he kind of found the back of the net after a really, really good team move. I think it was Kruger who came into the team, by the way, for this game. Who applied what looked like an assist, but obviously it was correctly disallowed for offside. Mm-hmm. It was quite clear, but I mean, it was a bit unfortunate because it was a good goal, really. But then, Rory, in the second half, you're just looking for RB Leipzig to kind of push on, aren't you, and kind of play better, but it was the opposite, really, if anything.
Yeah, obviously RB were trying to push forward and naturally had a lot of the ball with the quality that they possess, but Bielefeld were compact and they were hard to play against, much like they are a lot of the time. And, that's why they were in the game, opposed to, say, the way that Greuther Fürth have defended this season. So RB obviously knew they were in a contest and they got caught on the break. And what a brilliant breakaway goal it was. And finally, my man, Yanni Serra gets his first Bundesliga goal. I've been shouting out for him for ages. He has had a couple of starts in the league, but he's not really had a long run of games. I really think he is a key player for Bielefeld. So he starts to counter-attack. Already aforementioned Kruger, as you said, Mark, he laid on a cross, which was, I can't remember who came in and had the shot there, hit Galacci, and then Yanni Serra followed it up and managed to get him for 1-0. And yeah, big goal on the break, and then you're thinking, right, obviously Bielefeld hold strong here at 1-0. But then this is the bit that really annoys me about this performance in terms of Bielefeld. They took off Yanni Serra for captain Close, and then he goes and gets sent off. Not only is he just a penalty merchant, Close, he then gets sent off when his team need him most, a tackle over the top on like the ankle, lower leg. I think rightly a red card. And you saw Yanni Serra's reaction when he got subbed. He was really upset. And I don't blame him. So I hope Yanni Serra now gets a long run in the team as a result. It might be fortuitous that for Bielefeld. I know Close is a long-serving player for Bielefeld, and he's done an awful lot for the club, but he's not a prolific Bundesliga goal scorer, and he never will be. So you need to try and test out someone who might be. So maybe it's the time for Yanni Serra. But anyway, down to 10 men, you expect RB Leipzig to come back into the game, and then it's the second goal where ultimately kills the game. Leipzig being sloppy, giving the ball away. I think it's Haidara in their own half. They then Bielefeld recollect the ball high up the pitch. It's a nice ball through for Okugawa, and he slots in from about 15 yards. Really nice finish, kind of toe poke. 2-0, and they hold firm again from there. Interesting statistics actually around Okugawa and Ritsu Doan that came out on Twitter the other day, and that Okugawa's already had a more influential season in terms of goals and assists, or equal to Ritsu Doan in the entire season that Doan played at Bielefeld. And obviously myself and Mark, we praised Doan a lot, didn't we, last season, said he was the main man, but Okugawa's done it in half the time, basically. So fair play to him. He's had a really good run of form recently as well. I think 4 goals in the last 3 or 4 games. So, yeah, he is, proving the doubters wrong, I would say. And it was a excellent result for Bielefeld, considering people have been collecting points around them. Those 2 wins over Bochum and RB have now thrown them well back into the race. So, game on.
Yeah, I think I've been saying for a while, actually, I don't see Bielefeld as a relegated side. I really don't. I think they've got quality in that side. I really do believe it. But as I totally agree with Rory that I think one of the keys for them in the second half of the season is keep Fabian Klos out of the team. I'm sorry, I know it might sound harsh, and I'm sure the Bielefeld fans do love him for what he did for them in the Zweite Bundesliga and to a lesser extent last season. But for me, this season has been probably their biggest sticking point, really. I mean, the guy just can't finish, and he's just very clumsy, isn't he, as we saw with the red card. I mean, what was he doing there, really? It's just absolutely not good enough, because if he'd have cost them potentially 2 or even 3 points, that would have been a real tragedy, because they were absolutely brilliant, Bielefeld, in this game, to a man. Do you know what I mean? And one clumsy, and it was just clumsiness, like he clearly lost his balance, just dove into lunged into a challenge, and the referee could only send him off really via VAR, And I mean, they still had 20 minutes. I mean, I was following this game and I thought, RB will probably win now, But I mean, literally 5 minutes later, that man Okugawa, who, as Rory said, has been absolutely brilliant, especially in the last 6 or 7 games, I mean, he goes and finishes the win off, and it's a brilliant, brilliant win. Probably arguably their best win back in the Bundesliga that they've had in the last 18 months, really, Bielefeld. Absolutely brilliant result. But I really like the look of the balance of the team as well, with Serra and Kruger. They worked really, really well in this game. I actually thought Kruger was probably even better than Serra, to be honest, up top. He was absolutely brilliant. I really like the wide players. Wimmer is also a good player.
Yeah, he's been good.
I like him. I really like Okugawa. And I think obviously defensively they are solid, relative, not as solid this season as last season, but still they've got quality at the back with the likes of Amos, Petre and the likes. Obviously, another big note about this game is the fact that obviously the legendary goalkeeper was not playing in this one, but his stand-in Stefanos Capino, what a game he had, I mean, I didn't think RB were great, but they still forced a few decent saves out of him, and sometimes when these kind of backup keepers come in, they just have absolute stinkers, don't they, really, And we have seen a lot of backup goalkeepers this season due to like COVID outbreaks. And obviously in this game, Ortega wasn't able to make it. I'm not sure whether it was COVID. Did you know that, Rory?
I don't know the reason. Yeah, I don't know the reason for his not being there, unfortunately.
But regardless, I'll presume it's something COVID related or something like that. But yeah, it was certainly a great standing performance from him. And I mean, he's not had many chances, has he, been obviously behind Captain Fantastic Ortega, who's an absolutely brilliant goalkeeper, one of the best in the Bundesliga. But yeah, congratulations to Bielefeld for this. And as you say, I mean, they're only 1 point adrift of the playoff place, and now 2 points adrift of the safety now, you know. So, and for me, if they can replicate the last two performances, they'll stay up easily this season. But obviously, it's easier said than done, I guess. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to game 2, which was the Battle of the Champions Leagues chasing sides, really, wasn't it? I mean, obviously, which ended in yet another brilliant win for Freiburg. I mean, this was a real acid test for them, wasn't it? Because they've probably not finished this half of the season as well as they started it. Definitely, they have had a few defeats in recent weeks, although nothing wrong with performances at all. You know, I think they were unlucky to lose the last home game against Hoffenheim a couple of weeks ago. And then obviously they realized that a win here would leave them third going into the winter break at the halfway stage of the season. And that's indeed what they got. You know, I mean, a massive win over a Leverkusen side who have had a really, really good first half of the season. Or admittedly, they always blow a bit hot and cold, Leverkusen, don't they? But I'd say they've been more hit than miss in this half of the season. But yeah, a bit of a quiet start to the game really in this one. But then the first kind of major incident brought the first goal really, and it was Wu Yong-jong, the striker for Freiburg. He forces the handball really from Frimpong. I mean, it was a little bit clumsy from Frimpong, who's had a really good season overall, but he's got both arms out like this and it just hits one of his hands. It's one of them, you know, you think probably nothing would have come from the move really, because Jong had maybe lost control of the ball, but they have to give the penalty for that one, and it was a correct decision. And then, yeah, probably the big moment as well, Grifo, who actually missed his last penalty against Hoffenheim at 1-1. Which was actually a really big moment in that game because he obviously went on to lose. You're thinking, you know, just take a simple penalty, and he decides to go for the chip penalty, doesn't he? I mean, he's a confident guy. He's a famously confident guy, Vincenzo Grifo. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, I thought it was a little bit lucky, really, because Herdazzi was actually fuming that he didn't save it, really, that one, because I think he kind of realized he knew what he was going to do, but he just kind of dove and he couldn't quite get back to the penalty. And it did eventually settle in the battle at the back of the net. And I think probably to the relief of Grifo, because if he'd have missed 2 penalties, you know, I'm not sure whether the coach would have given him a third chance for the next penalty. But yeah, so that's 1-0 to Freiburg. But then just before the half time, Mark, obviously Leverkusen got back level, didn't they, Rory, in this one?
Yeah, they did. Just as Freiburg thought they'd get into half time, 1-0 up. Bit of a set piece. Well, kind of not masterclass from Leverkusen, but a bit of clever play from not someone that you'd think would be that acrobatic in the shape of Jonathan Tah. Does an overhead kick from when the ball falls to him in the back post to keep the ball alive. To which I think it was Aranguiz, who was just lurking in the middle of the goal. Ball falls perfect for him to head it at close range to make it 1-1 at half time. So with that in mind, you kind of think that Leverkusen will be able to use that momentum and kind of take it forward from there. But then it was a bit of a, again, kind of quiet period in the game. Wirtz was trying to work his magic to kind of put in Patrick Schick, who was quite quiet in the game. Grifo was having more of an influential kind of role on the game. I think he had a good shot from far out in the second half. And as the game was kind of meandering towards a 1-1 draw, a bit of quality, near post cross ended up being flicked on and in by Schade. The cross was actually from Demirovic, who we don't really see that much of, do we,
No.
at the moment? So, you know, that obviously then won the game for Freiburg. So they're absolutely buzzing. Fantastic first half of the season from them. Obviously, to come in third place is well beyond their expectations that they could ever imagine. Obviously, a lot of the reasons are down to what a brilliant team they are. They've not got one kind of individual top goal scorer that's always backing the goals. That's very much shared out. They've got superb defense. Obviously, if you kind of look at the goals conceded amongst the top, I don't know, from third down to 7th or 8th, you know, they're comfortably one of the best teams there. Leverkusen's problem is conceding goals really and kind of keeping the ship tight. So, obviously Freiburg finished the first half of the season third and Leverkusen fourth on, but it's very open for those two kind of Champions League spots, you would say. As you'd imagine, Dortmund would do enough to come second. So you'd have, got a battle between Freiburg, Leverkusen, Hoffenheim, Frankfurt, and maybe Union. So probably 2 from 5, let's say, that are going to get a Champions League place and probably going to see some new faces. I mean, I haven't said RB Leipzig because I just don't know what's going on with them, to be honest. But they could obviously come into the fray. But it's very exciting to have a race for the Champions League at the very least. If we're not going to have a title race this season, the league is very compact throughout, really. So a couple of wins can get you well up there. So yeah, Freiburg really, really good. Leverkusen just a bit kind of hit and miss right now. They're not quite getting it right. A bit too reliant on Schick and Wirtz. Diaby's form's kind of dropped off a little bit, hasn't it? Not seen much from him of late. And yeah, Leverkusen should be aiming to come top 4. That'll probably be a good start under Gerardo Sione as his first season in Bundesliga, of course, as well. But yeah, Christian Streich is doing an amazing job at Freiburg.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, you saw the celebrations at the end, I mean, he realized how big it was for a club like Freiburg to be in third place at the halfway stage of the season, I mean, he has, I think he actually almost got them into the top 4 like 8 years ago or something, but they fell short on the last day, famously against Schalke. I think it was like a kind of 50-50 shootout. And I think if Freiburg had got a point in the game, they would have got 4th in Champions League football. But unfortunately, they lost to Schalke. But I mean, this year, I think there's no reason why they can't actually get that top 4. Because as Rory said, I mean, if you look at the 4 favourites, obviously Bayern, Dortmund, but then obviously Leipzig and Gladbach, who were the 2 favourites to get 3rd and 4th this season, actually, are just having nightmare seasons, really, aren't they? I mean, to be fair, Leipzig aren't that far off the Champions League. They're still only 6 points, but unless they can find some serious consistency, and their away form is absolutely atrocious, isn't it? They've still not won away from home yet. But yeah, I mean, it's Freiburg have got a great chance. They've got great balance in the side, so many great characters. They kind of remind me of like a Bolton from like the under Sam Allardyce, really, when the Big Sam made his name. Do you know what I mean? Like every player works hard for the team. Do you know what I mean? And I think the fact that Roland Salah has come back into the team has also added that bit of quality that, I'm not going to say that they were lacking quality at any stage in the season, but I think when they've got the 2 wide players of Grifo and Salah, that really, really adds quality to the side as well,
Sure.
And I mean, actually, Schade didn't start this game, which was a bit surprising because he's been playing for most of the season. Obviously, he has fallen out of the team just for this game because of Salah, but he comes back in and scores the goal, the winning goal, which is just, I mean, obviously, Demirovic as well, as Rory said, hasn't really had much of a chance at all because of the form of Lucas Höhler, who's been absolutely brilliant leading the line for them. Yeah. But I mean, it's just been like quality performance after quality performance, really. And I think, yeah, absolutely. Top marks to Freiburg. I still think that Leverkusen have had a good half of the season overall, but their problem is the form against the bigger teams just isn't good enough. Yeah. They got battered. They lost. They shipped loads of goals against Dortmund and Bayern. Then obviously they shipped loads against Frankfurt, who are probably going to be up there challenging as well for those Champions League slots. But they've just got to they've got to find a way to get a back 4 that can defend. Basically, that's the problem. Because, again, Jonathan Tah, he looks like a real quality centre-half, but he's not always that good, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And they can't seem to find a partner for him. They go through like Kosunu and Tapsoba, but neither of them have really convinced, you know what I mean? So they still need, Soane still needs to find that quality partner for Tah, I guess. Okay, so let's move on to the game of the weekend. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer, really, this one. It was a really, really good game of football in a very, very cold Olympiastadion on Saturday evening. But yeah, it was a great win for, I would say resurgent Hertha Berlin under Korkut. I mean, they've been more hit than miss since he took over. I think they're on 7 points from 4 games that he took over, and they're actually quite resurgent. I think they're in 11th place at the halfway stage, which they would have taken, I think, They would have taken that, to be honest. But I mean, the game itself was really, really entertaining. I mean, it starts off. I mean, Dortmund have a couple of decent chances. I think Royce heads wide when he should do better, really. I mean, that should have been 1-0 to Dortmund. But then, I mean, the big chance, really, the first major chance falls to Eckelkamp. Who, I don't know how he misses this one. I mean, literally, the ball kind of ricochets to him, and he's literally 3 meters away from the net, and he somehow manages to like skew it wide when all he has to do is just kind of bundle it home, basically, and you think, it's not going to be another one of those days for Hertha where they miss chances. And then just a few minutes after that, they do actually have the ball in the back of the net, and it looks like there's nothing wrong with the goal. And I've got to say, I think this is very harsh against Hertha. I hate these kind of goals when a player that they say is interfering with play gets offside. It was actually Belfodil. He is in just about an offside position, but it's actually Maulida who puts the ball in the back of the net. But then they go to VAR. And for the second time in about 3 weeks, Hertha Berlin get done with a goal in this situation. They also got done with one against Stuttgart in Korkut's first game as well. And they were absolutely fuming about it, And then just to make matters worse, just a few minutes after that, Julian Brandt, actually a really good finish, actually. It's a really good... It's a good, solid goal, actually, to put them in front. Good team move, and Dortmund go in 1-0 ahead. But then, I guess a few weeks ago under Pal Dardai, they'd probably have fallen apart, Hertha Berlin. But we saw very much a resurgent side in that second half, Rory.
Yeah, it was a crazy second half, to be fair. It all kind of lit up. Not that saying that the first half wasn't good, because there was loads of chances in the first half, to be fair, as well. Just a simple ball forward, actually. For Hertha, not long into the second half from Darida, unleashed Belfodil, who didn't have his partner in crime, Jovetic, there at the game. Was he? Did Jovetic play? I can't remember, actually.
No, he didn't play in this one. No,
I think so. But so obviously the kind of the ball fills to Bedford. He's still got an awful lot of work to do going into the opposition's half. Runs at Witsel, runs past him, and does similarly in terms of his finish, kind of pokes it home to make it 1-1. Brilliant reaction from them in the Olympiastadion, and from there on in, it was really intense work from Hertha. They looked really good. And the second goal came really, really quickly after that. A fantastic finish from Richter as the ball fell for him after Julian Brandt undid a lot of his good work by conceding possession. Richter managed to fire in a fantastic half volley and went obviously past standing keeper again. Lots of standing keepers, aren't there, at the moment? No Gregor Kobel. So as Marvin hits, and we know that he's not the strongest of keepers. So that made it 2-1 to the Berlin side. Looking really good at this point. They were keeping Haaland out of the game for large periods as well. I thought they defended him really well. They did a good job of that. And then the game-winning goal came again from another mistake from Julian Brandt and lost the ball. Unfortunately, had a bit of a game of two halves, didn't he? And they put the ball over the top, and it looks like Bedford's going to volley it home. He has his shot well saved, actually, by Hits, but the rebound falls to Richter to then follow up, and he smashes it through a crowd of players to make it 3-1. With not too long to go, and obviously Tigges, the young striker, managed to get himself a goal off the bench. Nice header actually from Guerrero's cross to make it 3-2 to make them, a bit more nervy, but they did enough. Yeah, they held out for the win of the weekend for sure. They were excellent. Could have been a lot more goals for both sides, I think. Dortmund were a bit patched up, no Bellingham, no Hummels, no Kobel, but, still they've got to show a bit more clinicality in these sort of games, especially going 1-0 up. You'd expect them to then go and at least control the game or manage it a bit better, but I think that's one thing that Dortmund don't do very well is manage games. Kind of slow the game down a little bit, make sure you've got your numbers and your formation set, those two banks of four or whatever formation you're playing. And you've got a bit more help because Witsel was exposed by Belfodil. I thought Hertha managed the game really, really well. They're excellent energy about them as well, which teams have to do if you're going to beat Dortmund. It's a killer blow for Dortmund in terms of their title ambitions. Were they even there beforehand? Who knows? Brilliant way to finish the year and the first half of the season for Hertha.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point because, we've obviously talked a lot over our show since we've been doing it over the last 18 months, Rory, about Hertha's really poor form in the Olympiastadion, but this season in general, it's improved, but especially the two performances under Korkut. For me, these have been up there with two of the best home performances I can remember from Hertha in a long time, really. Obviously, including this game and the 2-0 win over Bielefeld as well, which they just dominated that game completely. But I thought they were absolutely brilliant in this game. I agree that Dortmund, I don't know about Dortmund. I don't think they've had a great first half of the season, all said and done, really. They've been a little bit unlucky with injuries. They missed Haaland for probably 5-6 games out of the 17. Obviously, Bellingham's missed a few. It's not really been great. Obviously, they're out of the Champions League. They're 9 points adrift. The table looks like okay for them because they are 5 points clear of third, But, I'm not really sure they could take that much solace out of that. I just think they've not had a great half of the season for me overall. But, as for Hertha, they do seem to be a club on the up at the minute, to be honest with you. They're on 21 points from 17, which, it's not amazing numbers, but it's definitely an improvement considering they lost the first 3 or 4 games of this half of the season as well. You've got to remember that. They have improved slowly but surely. They had a decent spell under Dardai, I think a few months ago, but then obviously he ended up paying for a poor run of form again. But for me, Korkut, I like his style. I like the formation and the balance he's found in the team. They've still got improvements because they still got battered against Mainz on Tuesday night. But you're always going to have kind of bumps in the road, But I think I like the fact that he's starting Richter on the wings. I think he's a great player, Richter. He's been one of the big kind of bright sparks for them this season for me. I think even Belfodil, I am a fan of him, and I think obviously 2 years ago for Hoffenheim, I think he scored 17 or 18 league goals, So I think he is a good sign. He wasn't really starting much under Dardai for whatever reason, but I think he's a good player. They have got quality in that side. We've talked about it many times, but I think Korkut has got at least more chance of. And the fans seem happy as well. That was another great thing to see. We often see Hertha fans, they're very much disillusioned with the club and things like that. But the last 2 games, they've looked happy. They were hugging each other. Obviously a kind of maybe not the best idea to do at the moment, but it's still they were really enjoying themselves. They got behind the team, obviously in reduced numbers due to COVID restrictions. But it was a great night in Berlin, and they'll go happy. They'll enjoy the Christmas now, the Hertha fans. As for Dortmund, big improvements have got to be made ahead of the second half for me.
Yeah. What I'd just quickly say on Dortmund is I think they do struggle more so when they are the team that is meant to challenge with Bayern. In previous seasons, they've had another team to kind of bounce off, like whether it's been RB Leipzig or Leverkusen, where they're kind of also battling them for second. It kind of feels like this season it has to be Dortmund or no one else will catch Bayern. But the problem is Dortmund can't deal with that pressure mentally anyway. And they have missed Haaland when he's been away. And obviously Leipzig have dropped off. And so they won't come any lower than second, probably. But they won't come any higher than second either. No. So, I think that's been an issue for them as well.
Yeah, I just think the game management at times is poor. Whether it is a mental problem, as you say, Rory, in this game, they get lucky with the disallowed goal, and then they get the goal and you're thinking they've got to win from there. You simply have to win, You're a better team than Hertha Berlin, ultimately, and you're 1-0 up at halftime. You've had a bit of luck. You've got to manage the game. Even if you just kind of grind out a 1-0 win, it's still a win. Do you know what I mean? But, they served up, what Julian Brand in particular turned up in that first half an hour of that half was just simply not good enough at the end of the day. And Dortmund deserved better ultimately. He got hauled off and he looked fuming with himself. But it just wasn't good enough at the end of the day, was it? So,
Not at all.
Yeah.
Right, well, that obviously brings a close this week's featured four and the last one of 2021. Let's now move on to our final kind of section of the show, which is obviously the Bundesliga Boxes talking point of the week. And it's one that we had saved basically from the week before, and it's still valid, so we're still going to talk about it. So we're going to talk a little bit about whether Hoffenheim can sustain a Champions League push. Obviously, they've had a really good first half of the season. They're currently in fifth place, basically joint fourth. They're only in fifth place on goal difference behind Leverkusen. They've showed a really good attacking kind of display so far this season. Kind of mixed the goals between Kramaric and Ilas Bebu has come back and looked a lot sharper. Kind of an upcoming talent in the shape of Reuter and Dabur and Baumgartner and all sorts of talents like that going forward. So it's really an exciting team to kind of watch and look. So first off to you, Mark. I think when we look at this Hoffenheim team, we kind of see it, and like I just said, some names going forward, but their team is flooded with talent. And if you look at the midfield kind of core with Geiger and Grilic and Baumgartner and then the wing backs as well, I think, and then obviously the goalkeeper is really good, Baumann. I think the only real weakness in this Hoffenheim side is maybe the centre halves.
Yeah, I would agree, to be honest. I've been saying for a while that I think they're a quality side, Hoffenheim. And I mean, obviously, we were very much underwhelmed with them covering the season last year, and we said, obviously, Hoeneß, the manager, he was under very much a lot of pressure, and a lot of the fans wanted him out. But I mean, he does have a good reputation within, obviously, coming in from Bayern Munich's second team, actually. That's where they signed him from. And I mean, I think the board, obviously, Dietmar Hopp gave him a lot of time. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's one of those situations where it's kind of, at the moment, it's looking like it's coming fruitful, basically, that the manager was given time. But I think, obviously, he's finally found a formation that works. But I think he's also been helped by a really, really good Bundesliga squad as well. I mean, they've got cover in pretty much every position. I mean, if you look at the game on Saturday, they kind of somewhat surprisingly decided to drop a few key players, But the likes of Bebu came out, who's been really, really good since he came back from injury early in the season. But he actually, I would presume he was a little bit tired after the midweek game as well, which was a hard-fought draw in Leverkusen. But they've got the likes of Munas Dabur coming in. He was probably their best striker last season, obviously after Kramaric, I mean, if you look at Kramaric this season, he's turned from goal king to assist king, basically. He's not been, I think he's only on incredible, 2 or 3 league goals, which is just incredible. But I mean, his performances haven't really dropped off. He's still been absolutely quality. He's still the main man, but he's just turned from basically a goal scorer to provider, But I mean, for me, probably the one man that really sticks out, there are 2 men, I would say, this season that have really changed the team around is Jorginho Reuter, first of all. I mean, from the very first game when he got those 2 assists and a goal, coming on against Augsburg, and he's just been absolutely brilliant for me. He's a young guy coming to the team, and he's just been a breath of fresh air, basically. And he's really started to get the statistics in his favour the last few games as well. He got a few goals, and he's probably on 5, 6, 7 goals for this season, his first as a pro. So, really, really good effort. Oh, and the other one is David Raum for me. He's been absolutely brilliant. He was in the team last season, but, I think the fact that he's been changed to a full-on wing back now has really, really improved him, and he's been absolutely brilliant this season. And the other man that I've really been impressed with is Florian Grilic. I mean, I think me and you watched him, Rory, in the Euros for Austria. We said, where was this guy for Hoffenheim? Do you know what I mean? Because this guy's a quality player, and he's finally turned up for Hoffenheim as well, because I think this season has been really good. He's shown leadership quality. He can play midfield and he can help out the defense as well. And I think they're still not the most stable side in the world, are they? But I think they have kind of they have added that to the game a little bit, like a kind of bit of grit that wasn't there the last couple of seasons. So great potential. And in answer to the question, for me, they can sustain a Champions League push.
Yeah, I think a few things that stand out to me so far, kind of statistically, this season for Hoffenheim. Firstly, that Out of all 18 Bundesliga teams, they're second on the most intensive runs. So obviously, to me, that suggests that they're playing, a very high energy game with a lot of kind of high pressing ideals, which in the end kind of brings them back a lot more possession in high areas in which their attacking talents can then utilize that. As we've already talked about, they scored quite a lot of goals in these first 17. They scored 14 goals in their last 5 games. Obviously, 6 of them, I guess, were against Fürth. And they've also, amazingly, so obviously, they've had a good season. Bear this in mind, they're joint 4th, but they've also had the most attempts that have hit the bar or post this season with 10. Wow. So, they're clear of even Bayern, who have got 9. So they're way out in front, and they've not, and another nice statistic, they've not had a single penalty this season.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
So, with all those statistics in mind, you have to say the bare facts that kind of displays a really good season so far, which is building for Hoffenheim. So looking ahead in terms of the fixtures, I'd say, which obviously is another thing to look out for as to how they may go for the second half of the season. I think they've got quite a tricky start, though, in the new year. So they go away to Union Berlin, home to Dortmund, and then away to Mainz. So that is a bit of a tricky run of games, I'd say. But obviously, the way that they're playing, they could quite easily beat all 3. But yeah, obviously, if they can get over that initial burst and continue their form and keep key players fit, I think on the basis of it, it's so hard to call, isn't it? There's so many teams that are up and around there. I'm going to say that Hoffenheim come 4th. So I'll stick my neck out and say they will come in the Champions League spots. And so, Mark, obviously, you kind of half answered it and said, yeah, so you think they'll come top 4 then?
Yeah, I think that's the key. If you look at that table, I mean, between 3rd, Freiburg on 29 points, right down to 9th with Mainz on 24. I mean, there's only basically 5 points separating. That can change in 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of sides now that have maybe didn't start very well, but are starting to come better now. Frankfurt probably being the main one of those, Yeah. And I think Frankfurt also have a very high quality side if they can keep the side, because there's a lot of talk that maybe Kostic could potentially be prized away in January. Because obviously he wanted to leave in summer, so that would affect them without doubt, because he's still their key player, basically. But yeah, I think, I would also go that they'll just about get it. Yeah, I think it'll probably be, I think it might be a little bit tough for Freiburg to repeat that level of half of season. I think they might drop off just a little bit, and then maybe Leverkusen and Hoffenheim will nick in there. That's what I would say. Because I just really like the balance, and I think they've got quality to come in off the bench as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think in probably a lot of key positions, apart from centre half, they have good enough backup as well, which could be key. If potentially COVID could be running rife in the second half of the season, potentially as well.
Who knows? Good stuff. Well, it's another interesting talking point that we've covered. Obviously, if you've got any thoughts on whether Hoffenheim can do a Champions League push on any of the games that we've seen so far this season, obviously let us know in the comments. And obviously that kind of brings the show to a close. So that'll be us for 2021. We've had a really enjoyable year. Certainly speaking on behalf of myself, had some brilliant guests on the show. We've developed the show a lot more, and we kind of changed it accordingly. And as a result, I had a load of fun and really enjoyed ourselves. So hopefully 2022 brings loads more guests and loads more enjoyment and success for the show. So yeah, obviously Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy New Year. And yeah, we'll be back with more content. So Mark, over to you to say your farewells and close the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, obviously, if you enjoyed the show and what we do on the Bundesliga show, then yeah, remember to check out at Over the Bar FB and at Over the Bar Extra as well. Yeah, remember also to follow the League One. I think it's the League One show that's coming up this evening as well, after our show, which is starting around 10 minutes time from now. So yeah, keep following all of our content as well, but obviously mainly the Bundesliga show, of course. Yeah. Also, visit otbfootball.net, which is like the kind of centerpiece of our stuff. Remember, we also do a lot of written journalism as well. That was the original thing that we started off doing on the site. So remember to check that out as well. We got articles on literally everything with regard to that. But yeah, and obviously keep on looking out for what we're going to do ahead as well. We have other videos planned. We actually released I think it was the Cologne v Gladbach derby just last week, actually, as well. So yeah, check that out. A lot of you guys asked for more Derby Day videos, so we've already provided it with you, and we got more that are going to be coming out probably between round about like the early New Year / late 2021. Yeah, so check out for that. And obviously we'll be back, I would imagine. I think the next set of fixtures is for the round about the 8th of January, the next set of fixtures. So I guess we'll be back on round about the 6th or so to do a preview show for them for the next live. But also we've also got some other things planned, like a Q&A, right, Rory?
Yeah. So I think in the coming weeks we'll probably do a midway review show / Q&A session. So we'll post when we're going to do it on Twitter, so we can get a load of questions in and hopefully a load of live ones as well, and kind of do a bit of a halfway review and a bit of Q&A. So we've had fun with those before, so that'll be a good one. Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, obviously from me and Rory, Happy New Year. And if we don't see you for another live show before then, thanks a lot for your continued support. And we've got a lot of good stuff coming ahead for 2022. And it's been a great half of the season, and see you next time.
See you then.